What is up, guys? I hope that you guys get this. I just want to let you guys know if you guys want to be second and third level my JRayPicsers, the description is in the link below. Not to make this an advertisement, this is an advertisement. I'm not getting paid for it, but I'm getting paid your attention. Please, 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 please follow my other shit. So please subscribe. Please, if you think other people might like my shit, please go subscribe and follow. Thank you. Okay, guys. So I'm gonna go to my YouTube. I was just doing the reaction to the Hogwarts or to the Voldemort's Origins of the Hair. Yeah, my nose is all messy. I'm sorry if I'm blowing it on camera, but don't mind me. It's been a long time since I've recorded. That Harry Potter video was the first time I've ever actually recording, and in like I think like 2-3 months, like actual video recording. So because of that, I'm gonna go ahead and go to Ghost's album over here. It's let's go to my library first. Because today we're going to be reviewing. And I know it's been a long time, but today we're going to be reviewing the album named. Yeah, look at all that stuff. Show more. It's Down the Alley by Ghost the Rapper. Well, in this case, it's Phoenix the Rapper. It's this full playlist. So the playlist is a 14-track album. The tracks are Bass Intro, Down the Alley, Confusion, It's Hard, Letters featuring Wongora G, Proud of You, This Photo featuring Aesthetically Cry, Why Everybody Sinks, Sharks featuring Slick of the Ice and Mr. Mischief, and Too Late, Purpose, Own It featuring Epic Writer, and Peace, which is the outro. So 14 tracks. I almost listen to this album almost every single day because Ghost gave me the on link. I also download it on my computer, so if anyone wants those, hit me up. So I actually have I actually have the grades up on my phone. Let me pull it up. This album, I actually thought that it was a good shout out and goodbye album for Ghost to make. Not only was it was it a good goodbye album, but it was a good album for his Phoenix thing that he wanted to do. So pretty much, for those of you who do not know about this album was started as something for him to just leave and retire, pretty much because he wanted to focus on other things. Um, in life. Shit, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm getting like coughed up over here because of this amazing Louisiana chipotle sauce that I put in some of my hot pizzas. Um, so this album pretty much was released after he deleted all of his Ghost the Rapper shit. He made this official Phoenix channel, and then he just posted this, and he deleted all his other stuff, all his socials. And he just had this up, and then he put it as unlisted, and only a certain people have it unlisted. And I downloaded it before it got unlisted, and then it just never became private. So I'm actually glad that Ghost did that for me. So let's look at the project grade. An overall project grade for me, I put 7.7 out of 10. This is because the project cover, however, which is this cover, I have so doing this cover was a 7.6 out of 10. The warning explicit or the explicit content warning, yes, and it's also provided. Like it's very explicit at times. It's a 10 out of 10, so it's either grade. It's either a 0 out of 10 or it's a 10 out of 10. There's no in between. And then is the project symbolic? Yes, he's down in a quote unquote alley, which is an alley of life. So it's 10 out of 10. He does have his name on the album cover, which is a yes, so it's a 10 out of 10. Tracklist cover. He did not make a tracklist cover, so this is what actually degraded his project in my book, in my road book, which he got a 1 out of 10 because he did have a album cover and he did show us like the track list before, but he didn't actually show us the track list like a track list cover. Like he didn't post it before he actually announced it, which I mean, or he didn't even post it after he announced it. He just said, "Here you go," well, boom, and then like dropped it. So because of that, as project and boom, boom, like project and elements of an overall project, it didn't feel like that. So that's the only reason why it's a 7. It's almost an 8 out of 10. But with all those combined, it comes out as a 7.7 out of 10 with the math. His approach, it was a 9 out of 10. This was because the project in threes was it followed a concept of him going down life's dark alley, and so because of that, he received a 10 out of 10 on that section of the approach, and the drop was a surprise, and then he vanished. So that was a nice 9 out of 10 with the approach, and with those two combined, added it out and divided by 2, you get 9 out of 10. So the tracklist grade was a 6.6 out of 10, and overall. So this is because base got 6.25 or 6.25 out of 10. Confusion got 7.7 out of 10. Down the Alley got 7.6 out of 10. It's Hard got 7.6 out of 10. Letters featuring Mongori G got 7.7 out of 10. Own It featuring Epic Rider got 7.7 out of 10. Proud of You got 6.6 out of 10. Purpose got 6.6 out of 10. This Photo featuring Aesthetically Cry got 7.1 out of 10. Too Late got 4.1 out of 10. Sharks featuring Slick at the Ice and Mr. Mischief got a 5.8 out of 10. Wait got 5.9 out of 10. Why Everybody Sings got a 6.6 out of 10. And Peace Outro got a 6.6 out of 10. With with Confusion being the top track and the most graded, the most number out track, and Sharks being the lowest of them all. So let's get into the reason of why it is. All right. So with my grading scale, bass intro was a 6.25 or 6.25 out of 10 because of the factor that its structure was a 5 out of 10. Its clarity was a 7.6 out of 10, and this clarity was because of the factor his crystal clear voice came out as a 5.10. Pronunciation and enunciation were both 10 out of 10s. Breathing was a 5 out of 10, and with that added up, the clarity became a 7.6 out of 10. The meaning with the two sections of positive messages and follow the three positive messages is an 8 out of 10. And the reason why messages got such a low score, or like a mid score, 7.1 out of 10, for the meaning section is because it doesn't follow the three, and it doesn't follow the theme to the title, but it sticks to the idea of what rap is. So it does have a concept. It just doesn't make sense of why it's called bass. Like, what is that? Like, it should have been called, the times of rap or something that makes sense to the concept of what we are talking about. So because of that, meaning got 7.1 out of 10. His impact got a 6.2 out of 5 out of 10, and this is because emotional delivery got a 6 out of 10, and his style delivery on the song got a 6 out of 10. And that added up to 6.25. His flow was a 7.6 out of 10, and this is because his being on beat was a 9 out of 10. His in sync with instrumental was a 6 out of 10, so that added out got a 7.6 out of 10. Originality was a 3.8. Now, this does seem low, but it's only because of grading scales that I do grade. It does have explicit content, so the explicit content grade was a 2 out of 10 because, yes, he does have explicit content, and yes, he does have explicit content on his sticker for the album, but he doesn't give an explicit warning in the description. And I found that most all these tracks do not have a description except for Enjoy in the description. So because of that, the explicit content ranking automatically went down. So it got a 2 out of 10 for that part of the originality. Repetitiveness got a 5 out of 10. It wasn't really repetitive, but it wasn't really unrepetitive in a bad way. Like, it was like you want repetition for like the hook in a good way, but you don't want repetition in your verses. So because of that, he was a little bit repetitive, so it got a 5 out of 10. Not bad. His writing ownership, he did not put who produced the beat, he did not put who wrote it, he did not put who mixed it. So because of that, we only know that Ghost made this project, so it was a 2 out of a 10. And his wordplay was a 6 out of 10. Because he had some lamp bars in it. It was pretty good. So that was why bass intro got a 6.25 out of 10. Let's go to the next song, Down the Alley. So, Down the Alley was a 7.6 out of 10. The structure. This is the reason why. The structure was a 10 out of 10, obviously. The clarity was an 8.3 out of 10. And this is the reason because he has a crystal clear voice of 8 out of 10. His pronunciation and enunciation were both 10 out of 10 again. His breathing was 5 out of 10. So that added up to 8.3. out of 10 for that section of its clarity. Meaning, which is a 7.6 out of 10. It's because his positive messages were 6 out of 10. And does he follow the 3? Yes, he follows the theme of him walking down a dark alley. So this actually got a 9 out of 10, which was a lot more better than the previous track, the intro, because it did follow the concept or the concept, the theme, or the idea of the track, as well as the concept of what he's rapping about. So it got a 9 out of 10, and that part made a meaning a 7.6 out of 10. His impact, emotional delivery, 6 out of 10, and style delivery, 6 out of 10. So those added up to 6.25 with the impact, with the 6.2 out of 5 out of 10 for the impact section. The flow section got a 9 out of 10, and this is because he was on beat, which was a 10 out of 10, 100%. He was in sync with instrumental, and 8 out of 10, so not too bad. He wasn't 100% in sync with instrumental, so that added up to a 9 out of 10. Originality. Again, this is what strikes the project down. He got a 2.7 out of 10. His explicit content. Yes, but no warning in the description, so that automatically knocked him down to 2 out of 10 because he does have a warning explicit on the project cover. So, he did get a 2 out of 10 on that. Repetitiveness, 6 out of 10. He wasn't really repetitive, but he was repetitive at almost a couple times. So because of that, I gave him a 6 out of 10. Writing ownership, again, this was what brought his grade down. 2 out of 10. We can only assume that Ghost made this project and no one else. Wordplay, 1 out of 10. So he didn't really have much wordplay in this, and it was because it was a meaningful track. So that's what also brought his grade down. And the overall track for Down the Alley is a 7.6 out of 10. So that's not bad. Confusion. This was probably my favorite song. It's a 7.7 out of 10. This is because the structure was a 10 out of 10. The clarity was an 8.87 out of 10. This is because the crystal clear voice was an 8 out of 10. Pronunciation and enunciation were both 10 out of 10s. And his breathing was a 7 out of 10. There was parts where he was breathing, you can hear his breaths like, and in between takes. What I suggest is if anyone else is watching this, you should, when in between music, if you're going to breathe, at least do it very quietly. So it's the author or the reader, the audience, or the if you're playing it in the background, people don't hear breathing as much as they're hearing the raps, the pronunciations, the words, the lyrics, so they can actually understand and focus on those if you want to get a bar or a message or even simply a melodic, lyric down in front of them, because that is the reason why he got a 7 out of 10, because there wasn't much breathing, but there was still breathing. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't have breathing, I just say you should cut down the breathing. So that added out to an 8.87 out of 10 for the clarity. His meaning, which is a 6.25 out of 10, because he had a 4 out of 10 for positive messages, and he does follow the theme, which is confusion. He follows the theme of the title. He's confused, and he feels like most people don't understand his brain. So that got an 8 out of 10, and that added out to be a 6.25 out of 10. Impact was a 6.25 out of 10, and this is because his emotional delivery was a 2 out of 10, not really getting it. It just felt like he was just talking and not actually delivering it with notes or emotion. So that was a 2 out of 10. His style delivery, this was awesome. So he got a 10 out of 10 on this. This added up to 6.25 out of 10. His flow, this was actually pretty good. The flow was good on this. He got an 8 out of 10 on confusion, and it's because he was on beat, and that got a 9 out of 10. There was parts where he wasn't, and he was with in sync with instrumental section, got a 7 out of 10. So that added up to be an 8 out of 10, and it was only because it was iffy at times. Originality. This is also. Oh, sorry. The thing also messed up. Hold up. So I got 7 minutes, 3 minutes left. For the originality. Again, Ghost, if you're watching this, or anyone who's watching this, the reason why he got a low grade for the originality is because we don't have any explicit content label except for on the projects. So if someone was listening to this with earbuds or with something like on the radio, or if you were playing it out loud, they wouldn't know there was any explicit content, or they wouldn't also, if they're just looking at comments, or if they're just looking through something like titles, they wouldn't know it's explicit. And so they would only know through the title. So because of that, I give him a 1 out of 10. He was not actually repetitive on this one, so he got a 7 out of 10. Again, very low with the writing ownership. It was we can only suppose that Ghost worked on this project, so got it to a 2 out of 10. His wordplay, he played around with words sometimes, so you got a 4 out of 10 on that one. So this is that's literally the next part's gonna be It's Hard. I'm gonna pause the video soon. Alright guys, the next song is called It's Hard, and It's Hard got a 7.6 out of 10. The structure got a 10 out of 10. The clarity got an 8 out of 10, and this is because the crystal clear voice got a 9 out of 10. He was actually pretty good with this. The mix was pretty good a little bit. The pronunciation got a 10 out of 10. The enunciation got a 10 out of 10. He did breathe a lot, so the breathing section got a 3 out of 10. So that's what brought his grade to an 8 out of 10 instead of it being a 9 or 10 per se. With meaning, he got an 8 out of 10 in the meaning section, and this is because he does follow positive messages, which gives him an 8 out of 10. And he does follow the theme of the title, which is it's hard with his alcoholism, his addictiveness. And so he got an 8 out of 10 in that, and that adds out to be an 8 out of 10 for the meaning. For his impact, it's an 8.5 out of 10, and it's because his emotional delivery was there, but it wasn't also very compelling like it is and the next upcoming track, which is called Letters. So because of that, he got a 7 out of 10 for emotional delivery, and his style delivery was a 10 out of 10. So he got an 8.5 for impact. Flow, 8 out of 10, and it's because he got a grade of 10 out of 10 for on beat and a 6 out of 10 for in sync with instrumental. It was because there was at times where he wasn't actually landing it on the instrumental as well as the beat, or landing some of his lyrics on the instrumental as well as some of the bows onto the beats. And originality got a 4 out of 10, and it's because of the fact that he does not give an explicit content warning or a writing ownership. So explicit content, yes, but he doesn't give the warning in the description. Again, so a 1 out of 10. He was a little bit repetitive with this, so it was a 5 out of 10. His writing ownership was at 1 out of 10. Again, put your writing ownership in the description. Wordplay, 3 out of 10. He didn't really have a lot of wordplay, so this section got a 4 out of 10 for originality. Letters. The next track. This track actually is probably one of my favorite underground community songs of all time, and it's because it got a 7.7 out of 10, and because the structure was a 10 out of 10, the clarity was an 8.3 out of 10. The crystal clear voice was a 5 out of 10 on the clarity section. He didn't have much of a crystal clear voice. His pronunciation and enunciation both got 10 out of 10s. His breathing was a 5 out of 10 because he did have a lot of breathing. It sounded like he did a lot of one takes, and not a lot of editing to edit out a lot of the one takes and instead replacing them with like ad libs. He didn't do that. It sounded like he didn't do that, but he also sounded like he controlled his breathing a lot. So he got a 5 out of 10 on that. That added up to an 8.3 out of 10 for the clarity. For meaning, he got a 9 out of 10, and this is because positive messages were there. So he got a 10 out of 10 on positive messages, and he got a 9 out of 10 for it follows the theme of letters being read. So a 9 out of 10 on that, and it added up to a 9 out of 10. The reason why I give him a 9 out of 10 on the follow the 3 is because he didn't actually explain a lot. He just said that it just sounded like it was like someone reading letters to people. Like first was his grandmother, then it was mom, then it was his friend. So I think that's what it was mostly about. And impact. This section got a 10 out of 10 because his emotional delivery was there. His style delivery was there. The flow got a 6.6 out of 10 because he was on beat. The score got 5 out of 10, and he was in sync with instrumental. He was 9 out of 10. And the originality was a 3.3 out of 10, and this is because he does not give an explicit content warning. He was not repetitive, so he got a 6 out of 10 on the repetitiveness. And writing ownership, he gave 5 out of 10. I give him a 5 out of 10 because there's him. There's also one Gary G, and he does give the production in the description box. And wordplay, there was not a lot of wordplay, so I give him a 1 out of 10 because there was a couple bars here and there. The next song is called Proud of You, 6.6 out of 10, and it's because the structure got a 5 out of 10. It's because the structure really wasn't there. It just sounded like there was a verse and then a hook, so it really wasn't structurized. Um, the clarity got an 8.3 out of 10, and it's because the crystal clear voice got a 6 out of 10. The pronunciation and the enunciation got 10 out of 10s. The breathing was a 5 out of 10. Meaning, the meaning got a 10 out of 10. It's because positive messages were 10 out of 10s. It does follow the 3, which is theme of the title, which is he's proud of sex workers. So this got a 9 out of 10, and the meaning got 10 out of 10. Impact. It was a 5.5 out of 10, and it's because the score of emotional delivery was 6 out of 10, and his style delivery was 5 out of 10. So this got a 5.5 in total. His flow was 6.25 out of 10. It's because he was on beat. 7 out of 10 for on beat, and he was in sync with instrumental, and that grade was a 5 out of 10, and that gave him a 6.25 with the math. The originality was a 2.7 out of 10. He does. There's no warning in the description, and there is a little explicitness, so I gave him a 3 out of 10 for the explicit content. He wasn't repetitive, so I gave him a 6 out of 10 on the repetitiveness. And his running ownership, still no running ownership, so I gave him a 1 out of 10. And there was little to no wordplay, so I gave him a 1 out of 10 for wordplay. So, the next song is actually a song he released before this album, way before this album I can guarantee was even thought of. And it's called Wait, which is a 5.9 out of 10 track. And it's because the structure was a 2.10. It sounded like he only did like a hook, and it really wasn't thought of. It was just there. And then for clarity was an 8.3 out of 10, and it's because the crystal clear voice was 7 out of 10. He was actually crisp with his voice. Pronunciation and enunciations both got 10 out of 10s, and breathing was 6 out of 10 because there was some breathing parts in there, but he could have cut them out, and it's still there where he can enjoy it. And meaning was a 7.7 out of 10, and it's because the positive messages was a 7 out of 10. And he did follow the 3, which follows the concept of weight on her shoulders. So that got an 8 out of 10, and that ended up was a 7.7 out of 10. The impact got 6.6 out of 10, and this is because the emotional delivery was 5 out of 10. Style delivery was an 8 out of 10. So the impact was a little bit 6.6, and the flow was 8.3 out of 10, and it's because he got a grade of 9 out of 10 for on beat and 8 out of 10 for in sync with instrumental. For originality, this is still what gets him. 3.6 out of 10. Gave him a 2 out of 10 for explicit content. There was no description. There was no warning in the description. He was not repetitive, so I gave him a 7 out of 10. He was repetitive only a bit, but not too much. And there was only a little bit of writing ownership, so I gave him a 1 out of 10 on that. And there was a little bit of wordplay, so I gave him a 4 out of 10 on that, and that added up to 3.6, adding up to 5.9 for the track. This photo featuring Aesthetically Cry, it's a 7.1 out of 10 track, and it's because the structure was an 8 out of 10. He did have structure, but it wasn't as par to what it could have been. The clarity was a 9 out of 10, and it's because the crystal clear voice, he did have crystal clear voice, pronunciation, and enunciation, so those all 3 got 10 out of 10s. And his breathing was a 7 out of 10, it's because he did have some parts, like I said, where he could have cut out. But other than that, it's a 7 out of 10, so he got a 9 out of 10 for clarity. Meaning was a 6.6 out of 10, and it's because he got a 5 out of 10 for positive messages. And it does follow the 3, which is follow the theme of a photo of his ex or his wife. So this was an 8 out of 10, or it's a song about his past relationship. Impact, which is a 4.5 out of 10. It's an emotional. He's got a 6 out of 10 for emotional delivery and a 3 out of 10 for style delivery. There wasn't much, different flows for the different styles, but he did have a lot of emotional, so that's literally there. For flow, it was a 7.1 out of 10, and it was because he got a grade of 7 out of 10 for on beat and 7 out of 10 for in sync with instrumental. For originality, which is a 5.3 out of 10. No content or no description warning, so 1 out of 10. He really wasn't repetitive, so 8 out of 10 for repetitiveness, and 1 out of 10 for writing ownership, and 1 out of 10 for wordplay. So that gave him a 5.3 and made the whole entire track a 7.1. While Everybody Sinks got a 6.6 out of 10, and this is because the structure was 9 out of 10. The clarity was a 7.7 out of 10, and it's because the crystal clear voice was a 6 out of 10. The pronunciation was an 8 out of 10. The enunciation was an 8 out of 10. And the breathing was a 7 out of 10. And it's only because of the factor that not only was Slickadot, or not Slickadot, it was because he didn't have a lot of pronunciation and shit at times. Alright, it's recording. For the meaning for Why Everybody Sings got an 8.3 out of 10, and it's because it got 7 out of 10 for positive messages, because it is an actual positive song and it has meaning. It does not follow the 3, or it does follow the 3. I'm reading wrong. It does follow the 3, so that got a 10 out of 10 because it follows, and it's literally a song saying, hey, while everybody's sinking into their own phones or their own problems, I'm going to rise. For the impact, it's a 5 out of 10, and it's because his emotional delivery was a 3 out of 10. His style delivery was a 7 out of 10. His flow was a 6.6 out of 10, and it's because he got a grade of 8 out of 10 on beat, and a grade of 5 out of 10 for in sync with instrumental. For originality, he got a 2.5 out of 10, and it's because his explicit content, no warning in the box, so 1 out of 10. Repetitiveness, he was a lot repetitive, so he got a 3 out of 10 on that grade, and no wording ownership, so 1 out of 10, but he had hella wordplay, so that's what actually brought his grade up in this section, which was a 5 out of 10. Then on the next song, which is Sarks featuring 2 different artists from the community, which is Slick at the Ice and Mr. Mischief, and this was the lowest song on the playlist, or on the album, because it got a 5 out of 10, or 5.8 out of 10. The structure was an 8 out of 10 because it had actual verses and structurized with hooks and different shit, with Ghost's hook, or Ghost's verse, the hook, Slick's verse, the hook, and then Mischief's verse, and then the hook. The clarity got a 6.6 out of 10, and it's because the crystal clear voice was a 7 out of 10. The mix was pretty good. Pronunciation and enunciation both got 8 out of 10s, and his breathing was a 4 point out of 10 because there was a lot of breathing in between. Like, you can tell that they did a lot of one takes and they didn't actually hold their breath to try to make no breath into it. For meaning, it was 1.8 out of 10 because there was no positive messages, so I give them a 2 out of 10. And then they did follow through of sharks, that they're sharks, they're going to eat people, they're going to eat the rap game, or not eat people, they're going to take people's careers because they're hungry for the drive. So with that, it does follow the theme of being hungry, or being sharks, so they're 9 out of 10. And the impact got a 6.25 out of 10, and it's because the emotional delivery was not there, so he had a 2 out of 10 for the emotional delivery, and his style delivery was a 10 out of 10, so that added up got a 6.25. His flow was actually, there was good flow for all 3 different artists, so got a 9 out of 10, and the grade for on beat was 9 out of 10, for being in sync with instrumental was 9 out of 10. Originality was a 2.7 out of 10, and because there was no explicit content warning in the description box, 1 out of 10, it was a little bit more repetitive, so it was a 3 out of 10. And writing ownership, no writing ownership, so it was 1 out of 10. And there was a hell of a lot of wordplay, so it was a 6 out of 10. The next track is this track I really enjoyed. It was called Too Late. The track has a 4.1 out of 10. Actually, it's not the lowest. My bad. Sharks isn't the lowest. Too Late is the lowest. My bad. And it's because the structure is 7 out of 10. The clarity is a 7.7 out of 10. Because crystal clear voice was a 6 out of 10. Enunciation and pronunciations were both 10 out of 10s. And he had a lot of breathing, so it was a 5 out of 10. That added up to the clarity being 7.7. The meaning was a 5 out of 10 because the positive messages were 3 out of 10. There was not really positive messages, but it did follow the concept and follow the theme of is it too late for me to back out of this game? So he got a 7 out of 10 for follow the 3, and that added up to 5 out of 10 for positive, or for meanings. Originality, there's a 3 out of 10 for originality. So because he got a 1 out of 10 for explicit content, because no warning, he was very repetitive, so he got a 4 out of 10, and there was no warning ownership, so 1 out of 10, and a 6 out of 10 for wordplay, because there was a hell of a lot of wordplay and shit. The next song is called Purpose because it's a 6.6 out of 10. The structure was a 6 out of 10. There was, a verse, a hook, a verse, a hook. It was structurized. The clarity is an 8 out of 10, and it's because the crystal clear voice is a 7 out of 10. The pronunciation was a 10 out of 10. The enunciation was a 10 out of 10. And the breathing was a 5 out of 10 because you can hear him breathing in between cuts, so you can actually edit it out, and he didn't edit it out, so you got a 5 out of 10, adding it up to an 8 out of 10 for the clarity. The meaning was a 9 out of 10 because he did have positive messages, so he got a 9 out of 10 for that, and he did follow the theme of it being called Own It, so he's going to own, whatever mistakes he does, whatever the game he's doing, whatever he's doing. So you got a 9 out of 10 for that. That added up to 9 out of 10 for the final grade for meaning, and for impact, he got a 9 out of 10 for impact because he got it both 9s on emotional and style deliveries. It was because there was a hell of a lot of deliveries for like own it, own it. There was emotion in his voice. It wasn't just him rapping, if that makes sense. And there was style to it. There was different flows. This song had the best flows too. So the flow, which is actually pretty funny, the flow was a 4.5 out of 10 because on beat he was 6 out of 10. And being in sync, he was a 3. It was a 3 out of 10 because they weren't really in sync with the instrumental, but they were on beat. Um, Originality was a 3.3 out of 10 because he does not give any warning. He was not repetitive, so it gets a 7 out of 10. Writing ownership was a 1 out of 10, and wordplay was a 4 out of 10. So he had a little wordplay. There was a lot of flows. So that added up to 3.3, adding it up to the whole entire track being a 6 out of 6, or 6.6 out of 10. The next track is the actual outro, which is Peace, and it's got a 6 out of 6, 10, and it's because the structure was a 1 out of 10. It was just him talking. There was no actual structure. The clarity was an 8.3 out of 10, and it's because his crystal clear voice. He did have the mix was good on that. The enunciation, the pronunciation were both 10 out of 10s. He did breathe a lot, so his breathing got a 5 out of 10. His meaning was a 10 out of 10. He did have positive messages. He was talking about he's leaving, he misses the underground community, and telling us to keep doing our thing, so that got a 10 out of 10. And the 3, he did follow the theme where he's saying peace, so 10 out of 10, it does follow a theme. And the concept of he's saying peace. The impact, which is 5.5 out of 10, so he got 10 out of 10 for emotional delivery, almost made me cry. And his style, there isn't really much style, so he got a 1 out of 10, so that's why he got a 5.5 out of 10, because the math added up got him a 5.5. And for his flow, there was no flow, so he got a 1.10 out of flow. He was, on beat grade was 1 out of 10. On in sync with instrumental, he wasn't even in sync with the instrumental, so he got a 1 out of 10 for the in sync. Originality, 5 out of 10. So there was no explicit content, and yes, there was explicit content in this track, which is funny because it's just a talking track, and it's 1 out of 10 for that grade. He wasn't repetitive, so he was a 7. It got a 7 out of 10 for this grade. Writing ownership, no writing ownership, 1 out of 10, and 0 wordplay, 0 to no wordplay, so he got a 1 out of 10 for wordplay, adding up the track to 6.6 out of 10. And that's why the whole entire track, and that's why the whole entire album, or the track list, got a 6.6 out of 10. But the project overall got a 7.7 out of 10 because with the project cover, the explicit content warning, symbolic, the name, the tracklist cover, and the approach, as well as the tracklist grade, all added up, it added up to 7.7 out of 10. Now I'm going to review my favorite stuff from this grade. All right, boys. So this is my personal opinion. This is my personal opinions. I like to leave personal opinions kind of out of track list grades, so I just put it on the side. My favorite tracks were Letters, featuring Ron G. That's my favorite track from this album. While Everybody Thinks, because that one is a banger. Own It, featuring Epic Rider. Peace, which is an outro. Too Late, which is a good song. And Sharks, featuring Slick of the Ice and Mr. Mischief. That's my least favorite song, but it is a good song. Least favorite tracks, though, overall, was Wait, This Photo featuring Aesthetically Cry, and Confusion. It's because Confusion, like I did say, Confusion is a good song. It's probably my favorite song. When I graded this, I thought, is Confusion a good song? Is Confusion not a good song? I've listened, and it has gained over time that Confusion is in the mid of it's not a personal it's not a personal favorite or disfavorite. It's just there. And then album opinion. Outside of the project grade, I think it was a good send off for Ghost / Phoenix the Rapper. Retirement. This is because of the album he explains and explores deep topics such as sex workers, letters from dark times, and his ADHD. I think it was a thematic and good off of Sam's part, which is Ghost the Rapper's name. but I wanted more, honestly. I wanted more of the album because it was such a good concept. Even though the grade got a 7.7 out of 10, I listened to this album almost every single day, and it's such a good album. Um, my PC's running low. Out of everything, I wish that Sam goes on and have a better life in music retirement and life activities. That was my down the alley project grade. And I hope you guys liked the review. If you do, give it a thumbs up. Go check this album out. If you guys want to check out Ghost or Phoenix Rappers shit, go check them out. The links will be in the description. I can even put a link to this in the description. And I'm Jeremyray Retherford. I'm just Jeremyray Retherford. Have a good night.